Good evening to all. In this session we are going to learn additional domain controller, and first let me explain what is additional domain controller and why we use ADC, right? And later I will show you the lab how to configure additional domain controller. So I will have two fresh server, you can see here, server 1 and server 2. Okay, these both server are fresh, nothing installed, even I have not installed root domain controller. So first I would install root domain controller, and then in second server I would install additional domain controller. So what are the prerequisites to install additional domain controller, how to configure additional domain controller, and why we use additional domain controller in our domain premises, right? What is use, everything we are going to learn one by one. And whatever you have doubt later in this session, after this recording session, we'll have time as we are doing regular basis, right? So we'll have discussion, whatever your question, and whatever I want to explain extra, that would be done in that session. Okay, so let's start. What is additional domain controller and why we need? So here I would take slide, and one by one I would explain you. So additional domain controller, ADC. First, here in our premises organization, this is our organization, suppose, right? And here one is root DC, root domain controller. Okay, and another one is additional domain controller. This is nothing but is a database, domain controller database, right? It's called NTDS. So a root DC and ADC prerequisite. First you should understand the prerequisite. First, here this is root DC, and this one is ADC. Okay, so IP here I'm going to give 10.0.0.1, and DNS IP would be 10.0.0.1, the same DNS IP, and here IP would be say 10 dot, same series IP should be, and let me give 5, and DNS IP will be the same. I am explaining you from beginning, from fresh. Okay, nothing installed in both server, just I've installed Windows Server, where I am going to install a root DC as well as ADC. Okay, so it take little more time to understand, but you will understand definitely. Otherwise what I would have done, I would have installed first root DC, then I would have shown you how to configure ADC, but I am not doing like that. I am installing first root DC, that also you should understand. Already we have learned Active Directory, where I have installed Active Directory, right? So you can see that in playlist of Windows Server 2022 live session playlist in my YouTube channel, and where you can get it Active Directory, how to install and how to configure, where you will understand root domain controller. But here from beginning again I am going to install Active Directory for root DC and Active Directory for ADC. Okay, so same scenario, same IP I have given my both server, and after that here what I am going to do, a domain name should be, domain name can be whatever you want, just I am giving here domain name would be ishaninfo.com. so same domain will be, right? Domain will be replicated, same domain will be, and this is your database, NTDS database here. So after installing, what is going to happen, first let me write here operational master for operation master role. Okay, so that is called FSMO role. Actually, FSMO role. FSMO is called flexible single master operation role. What is this? I am not going to explain one by one here, but you should understand. So there are 5 roles actually: schema master, domain naming master, ADC, RID master, and last one is infrastructure. So there are 5 roles. Okay, what is use? That's now you should understand. This computer name is server 1 and this is server 2. Here this is server 1 is a root DC, that is server 1. Exact scenario I am going to show in lab, so please note down this, or else you can take a screenshot. Okay, snap, you can take mobile screen, okay, screenshot, so that later when I will show you lab, so you will understand. And this is server 2 is the computer name. Okay, so what is use of? Now you should understand. Here what I am going to do is here root DC. Once you install root DC, the database here, right, NTDS, new technology IT services, along with this database, what happened, FSMO, flexible single master operation role, there are 5 roles that will be installed by default into root domain controller. All these 5 roles. Okay, and later what happened, why we use additional domain controller is nothing but is called backup domain controller. Okay, earlier it was primary domain controller, PDC and BDC, and now it has been changed ADC, additional domain controller, for backup purpose. So whatever you are doing in this domain, that is going to replicate over here. Okay, means if you create user group, whatever you want to create, just you create, and that will be replicated automatically in additional domain controller. In case of failure of any domain controller, what happened, your all Active Directory content will be safe. Okay, nothing will be lost. So therefore, especially we are using for failover. Okay, it's nothing but for backup purpose. Means any one server from this fail means your work will not stop automatically. Suppose this root DC got failed, means additional domain controller will become root domain controller, and all user will be replicated here and will be able to log in the particular specific machines which was connected to the root domain controller. Okay, so means especially we are using one line, you can say additional domain controller, especially used for backup purpose. In case of failure of any server, right, domain controller, the Active Directory object backup will be stored in the. Okay, so question is, these 5 roles will be here, the same role will be replica here, duplicate role will be here. This additional domain controller does not have any role of this. Okay, all role will be copy here. So one will be primary, another will be secondary. Okay, so therefore whenever you want this root domain controller, you can make a additional domain controller to root domain controller. Once you transfer these all role, so that will become opposite. Okay, vice versa, here server 2 will become root domain controller and this will become additional domain controller. So also in this series, session series, later you are going to learn how to transfer this role from root domain controller to additional domain controller. That also I am going to show you later. Okay, so but in this video, in this session, we are going to learn only how to install additional domain controller, right? So first let me configure this and then this. Okay, so please take a screenshot and I'm going to start the lab. Okay, if you have any doubt, I can understand you will have many doubt, many questions, so don't worry, we are having session for especially for questions and okay, Q&A. Therefore we have okay. Yes, so I'm going to go to my lab and I'm going to show you lab. This was same scenario. Okay, exactly. So here you can see two server 1 and server 2, and nothing has been installed. Okay, so in server 1 I'm going to install Active Directory. So here to prerequisite to install Active Directory server operating system, yes it is, and IP, let me check the IP. So run and ncpa.cpl, and here you can see the IP address and DNS IP, that should be same 10.0. I have given already, I know. Yeah, right, so everything fine, so nothing, no need to wait. Okay, just you go to the server manager and start installation of Active Directory domain services. So there are two steps to install Active Directory and configure. First step is to install Active Directory, and then you have to promote this Active Directory to domain controller, then it will become ADDS, Active Directory Domain Controller. Okay, so this is server manager, and what you have to do, just you go to the manage and add role and features. It takes some time to initialize and then it will work. Still is not yet ready. Yeah, here just you click next role based installation. You can see server 1 and the specific IP what I have given, and next. And here Active Directory domain services, and install. Next, click next again once, next, and install. So once this Active Directory install, you have to promote this Active Directory to domain controller, and then we can start installing additional domain controller. Okay, first we have to ready root domain controller, then only you can configure additional domain controller. So it takes some time, and already I have taken this session, so I'm not going to show you each and every stuff to install Active Directory root domain controller, but I would show you in additional domain controller session. Okay, so I will stop this recording video, and it will, once it will completed, then I'll come back and I'll show you root domain controller. Get ready. Okay, so now you can see Active Directory has been installed, means root domain controller. You can see, just out login here, and you can see Shan info administrator, right? So root DC now ready, and check the premise. Once you install, once you promote this, what I did actually, recording was paused. Actually, what I have done, first I have installed Active Directory and I have promoted this Active Directory domain controller, that's all. Okay, and domain name I have given icntgroup.com. If you have doubt how to install Active Directory and how to promote this root DC, so in my YouTube channel playlist you go and Windows Server 2022 Active Directory you can see. Okay, yes, so this one here ncpa.cpl, just you go and what happened, IP address, DNS IP would change actually. And also the firewall. Even I have given charge GB RAM for each server, even working slow, you can see. Means Windows Server 2008 R2 above, any version if you install 2012, 2016, 2019, 2022, all are lot of app, lot of services, so therefore it's very slow. Required minimum 8 GB RAM to work properly. Okay, here you can see, and that is change. So again you rechange this 10. Okay, that's all. Now it will not change automatically. First time it happened actually, and it's okay. Disable. So our domain controller, root domain controller is ready. Okay, and now let's check here. It's on Active Directory users and computers. You go and you can see icntgroup.com and domain controller section actually here you can see icntgroup.com, and computer, there is no computer. Domain controller, there is only one domain controller with this domain controller along with global catalog, master global catalog. What is this actually? Master global catalog, always it is with root domain controller. Okay, global catalog you can install in all domain controller, but master global catalog only will store in root domain controller, where schema master place, where global catalog will store. Okay, so after configuring additional domain controller, that will come in addition here, domain controller list here, server 2, like this. Okay, and then we can create user in root DC, and that will be replicated to additional domain controller. Okay, so let me now start installing additional domain controller. So let's come to the server number 2, and here premises, everything I have done, the 10.0.0.5 you can check here. So just start check IP config, and you can see 10.0.0.5. okay, everything fine. Let's check whether domain controller pinging or not. So ping 10.0.0.1. Yes, fine. Even you ping icntgroup.com. Yes, fine, everything fine, right? So nothing else, just you have to open server manager, and same procedure how to install Active Directory root domain controller, same like here. You have to initialize, add role and features. Taking some time. Okay, yeah, here you can see add role and features, and just click next, and this server 2 and the specific IP here, next, and you have to select Active Directory domain services as we have selected in root domain controller, same procedure, nothing else. Next, and install. Okay, so Active Directory once installed in additional domain controller, then while you are promoting Active Directory to domain controller, step number 2, that time you have to care how to configure additional domain controller, what option you have to enable. Okay, so in this session just I am installing additional domain controller. I will promote this, okay, and I would show that flexible single master operation, but I am not going to explain flexible single master operation 5 roles and how to transfer this role. That will have separate session for. Okay, here just I wanted to explain you how to install and configure additional domain controller along with root domain controller. Okay, means without root domain controller you cannot make your additional domain controller. So you can see here additional domain controller server number 2. You can see here Active Directory install. Now I'm closing this, and here notification, just click and promote the server to domain controller, and here you have to care about what option you have to enable and disable. Okay, this is the important one. So there are 3 options. First, add a domain controller to an existing domain, add a new domain to an existing forest. So new domain we are not adding, this is existing domain only. Replication will happen, replicate. Okay, same our domain controller will be replicated. So first option, whenever you are configuring additional domain controller or root read only domain controller, backup purpose, we have to select first option. Okay, and here your domain credential will check. So your domain name is icntgroup.com, icntgroup.com, and just click on select, and it will ask the credential. So I would keep administrator @icntgroup.com and the password. If everything fine, then it will come in this list. Oh, no, something problem. So let me check. Okay, let me check whether it's pinging or not. Yes, it's pinging. Then what is problem? I will close this, and here let's go to this server. Sometime troubleshooting I need to do. Yes, it may be problem with firewall. Okay, because it block the port number 53 means DNS. Then how can it replicate DNS to this server. Okay, now let's check. Yes, now you can see here. Okay, so once communication happen properly, then that will come here. Only you need not to go next. If I would have clicked here, that time also it was coming next option, right? If you click next, you would have get error 100%. Okay, so therefore I have not clicked, because I knew that if I would go next without credential, so definitely will get error. Okay, so at last we got successfully credential, and now just click on next, and here you can see DNS and everything automatic replicated, and DSRM. Global catalog, if you want to install, you can install, otherwise you can uncheck, you can remove, but should be installed. But in root domain controller it won't ask master global catalog. Okay, so next, and replication will happen from which domain. So right now we have only one domain. If you want to give, otherwise you don't give, then also it will replicate automatic from this domain. Okay, better you give, otherwise it will take automatically. In case many domain like child domain you have, so from where you want to replicate this backup domain controller, so for that purpose. Okay, just click next, and next, and next, and last, install. That's all. Means we are successfully installed additional domain controller. And now I would show you the differences between additional domain controller and root domain controller. See here, successfully prerequisite requirement full now installed. So it takes some time. So it will complete it. It will complete and reboot. Okay, till while we'll see in root domain controller some credential here. Just I want to show you. First, let me show you domains. Okay, domain controller updated or not. So domain controller is still not updated. Oh, that, yeah, yes, here you can see server 1 and server 2. This is root DC, this is ADC, and both having global catalog, because I have selected there. Okay, so like that, how many domain controller you have in your organization, those all domain controller will be listed here. Okay, like your root DC, ADC, RODC, CDC, all domain controller. So that is done, and here I want to show you FSMO role. So the command is, please note down the command, netdom space query, QUERY, query FSMO, enter. So you can see 5 role: schema master, domain naming master, RID, PDC, and infrastructure. You can see here, right? And both all our role are server 1, right? So here, okay, after rebooting you can see here also same, all role will be server 1, not server 2. Means additional domain controller doesn't have any FSMO role. Additional domain controller only will get replication from root domain controller. So therefore differences is what you know. If you create any user in root DC, that will be quickly replicated in additional domain controller. But if you create any user in ADC, that takes some time to replicate in root domain controller. Okay. Yes, so now here just you log in. This is our additional, same look like same. Yes, Kushal, I can understand. Don't worry, we'll have discussion. So here, okay, till is initializing, just I want to show you Active Directory users. So there's no user at all, right? No user. I'll create organizational unit here, and that we'll see later, that will be replicated over here. So let it open first this, then I'll create and I'll show you that will be replicated automatically in this domain controller. This is our additional domain controller. So credential number 1. First I would like to show you the functional role. Okay, cmd and net dom query fsmo, and you can see all the functional role will be with server 1, not server 2. Means this server doesn't have any role, their own role. Okay, everything will be replicated from server 1, root domain controller. Okay, first doubt clear. And second doubt, let's come to the Active Directory, and there is no user at all. Okay, therefore first I want to show you, otherwise you will say it was earlier created and just I'm showing. So therefore I am showing you blank, there is no user at all. And now I'm going to create a user and organizational unit in root domain controller that will be replicated automatically in additional domain controller. You can see here there is no user at all, and domain controller you can see that will be listed, right? So let's come to the server 1, and here I'm going to create organizational unit. Just you click to the new organizational unit, and I'm typing here, writing just Ishan team, and okay, so one organizational unit created. And just right click and create a new user. Ishan is a user. Right, next, simply any option you enable or disable, and that I have explained already. So one organizational unit, and in this organizational unit we have created one user. Let us check whether it's replicated in the server or not. Say there is still is not showing any organizational unit. Refresh, take some time to replicate. Okay, but will happen definitely. You can see here Ishan team. I have not created, guys, this in additional domain controller. Do you believe me? I have created in here. Okay, again I am creating one user. You can see that user is going to replicate. Don't confuse. Okay, so what I am going to do in server 1, I am going to create one more user, and then later I will show you that will be replicated here in Ishan info team. Okay, Ishan team. So let's create. I will copy, and name I will give Icnt. Next, yes, created, right? And now you see, just you refresh once, yeah, see, quickly replicated. Okay, and now I want to show you, if I create any user in additional domain controller, whether that will replicate or not. So let me create one more user here in additional domain controller. Now I am creating money. Oh, Yes. So and now I have created in additional domain controller. Now let's check a root domain controller is replicated or not. No, it won't replicate. It will replicate, but not quickly. It takes some time. Sometime it takes 24 hours. Sometime once restart your server, then it will replicate, but definitely will replicate, but it will take time. Okay, so I hope you got understand. Means what? I have installed this server, right? Server 1 and server 2. Server 1, right, is a root DC, server 2 is a ADC, and what you have seen, from server 1 any user replicating very fast to additional domain controller, but here from here it taking time, quickly is not replicating, right? So I hope you got understand about root DC and ADC. Root DC and ADC, you can see a root DC and this is ADC. Replication is happening from here to here also, but it will take time. Why? Because schema master, FSMO role, schema master and global catalog only will store in root domain controller. Okay, so in this session that's all, and this related FSMO and how to transfer FSMO will have separate session for that. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording the video for YouTube, and whatever doubt you have now you can ask freely. Okay, so thank you so much all of you.